Hi everybody, welcome back to another Stoneforge gaming video. Today we're going to be taking a look at and putting together the Tori and Bridge set from Plast. Now, this is going to be a little bit different than some of the stuff we've done in the past, as what we're going to be doing, this is the beginning of a new series on these sort of colored and pre-painted sort of sets, so like say foreground or Plastcraft or anything like that that you can just kind of put together, get it right out of the box, put it together, and then put it on your table if you want to. Now, for me, I'll probably end up doing more to these pieces, but for this particular series, what we're going to do is look at what do these things look like and how are they when you just basically pop all the pieces out. And you can see that's what we're doing here. We're just popping out all the pieces and we're going to put it together and do the basically the minimum amount of effort possible, which is just putting the stuff together and then putting it on the table. Because what I want to do is some people don't necessarily either have the want or have the need or even really maybe the skill to do. Now, to be fair, I think everybody has this enough skill to do pretty decent wargaming terrain or any sort of gaming terrain, but some people might not want to. They might not have enough time, so that's why they get these particular sets. They just they get them and then they decide that they want to just pop something out, do it quick and dirty. Maybe even for if there's board gamers out there, people that are maybe trying out the hobby, they haven't necessarily done a whole lot yet in as far as the craft side of the hobby yet. Maybe they're pretty new to that. And some of these pieces, now to be fair, I think these pieces are great for people that have been in the hobby a long time, like myself. I've been wargaming and playing games, tabletop games, for years and years now. But for everybody, I think these sorts of pieces are really good. So what I'm just doing here is going through and just popping out every little piece. There's a lot of little details on this Plastcraft stuff. Now, I will kind of premise this with the Plastcraft stuff is kind of like, it's like a thick plastic stock that it looks like they mostly print all their stuff on. And now some of their pieces, like you can see the bridge there, it has some details on it, just pre-printed on there, which is pretty cool. And you can just use it as is on the table, which is again very appealing to some people. But for me, I will be probably doing a little bit of dry brushing, a little bit of washing here and there, just to kind of maybe pick out some of the details, because these pieces do have a lot of cool, interesting little details, but that don't really get caught all that much by the light. So again, just a little bit of extra work. You can actually do a lot with these. So we're just going to continue on popping all these pieces out, and then what we're actually going to do from there is begin trimming all of these pieces and separating everything out based on the Tori and the bridge. Now, I actually have a large number of these pieces from Plastcraft games, and so we'll actually be going through this process. Maybe not, I'll be doing unboxings, maybe not full from box to table videos, but I'll at the very least be doing some unboxings and then showing what the buildings look like all apart. So when we go through here, I'm just using a standard hobby knife, just kind of trimming off some of the excess pieces. You can go through the whole set and do that. Now, here, I actually made a mistake the first time I was putting this all together, in that I tried gluing the bottom on first. I don't know what I was thinking. So you can see it's a little bit torn up at the bottom there. It's fine. It's actually going to be hidden. You're never going to see that. But yeah, so because of the fact that there are instructions on Plastcraft Games' website, but they're kind of hard to get to if you don't have the whole digital scanner on your phone or whatever else. They're kind of hard to get to those directions. So in a lot of ways, I was doing this one by just basically looking at it and thinking, hey, these pieces look like they should go this way. So in a lot of ways, you guys, by watching this, you can see what not to do as well as what to do, because that means you guys don't necessarily have to make the same mistakes that I made, and you guys can just simply go ahead and put these pieces together. And so these are kind of the little stand pieces on the bottom here that kind of make it a little bit easier. You just pop those in, and they're actually all pre-fitted, pre-cut, so there's no real additional work on your end. Now, depending on the type of super glue that you're using or the type of plastic glue, you'll have more or less time. Now, you can see here, I actually have to trim this out a little bit because of that initial error. So you don't want to do that. Just put it together properly, the smaller piece on top of the larger piece, and do that first before you put any glue down, and then you'll be all set. So we're just going to continue on, and again, because of the way that the glue is already beginning to set, I'm kind of having a little bit of problems, and so we can just re-glue that there. So let's see. Yep. So I like to do it all around the base because it tends to create a much harder seal and harder bond there, where you have the Tori gate kind of going up, and because it's all resting, it's a pretty tall piece, and it's all resting on those two spots. It does make it a little bit nicer to have some thick base there. Now for this, you can actually just put a line of glue on there, and then you just slide these additional pieces on, and I set them a little bit to the center, to where there's a little lip on either side, so that if I did go back and dry brush, you could catch those edges with an easy dry brush, and then you would get some different variation in the way your lines look. But basically, yeah, you just put these 4 on there, just run a line of glue up there, and then it adds a little bit, because there's actually a wood grain texture on there. So again, it would look like maybe painted wood or something like that, if that's what you're going for with these, because obviously these would probably be made out of woods, of some sort of wood, and because they're plastic, you could always go in, and if you wanted to, you could use them as a rough outline, and then maybe add in your own detail or own texturing if you wanted to. Again, I'm probably not going to be doing all that, but if you wanted to, you could. Now this piece is just simply the top here, which is actually pretty cool. You just kind of line this up, just run a bead of glue down there, and then just plop it on top, and more or less that is the vast majority of the actual overall structure of the Tori bridge. And I like it because it kind of gives it a little bit of an offset color to the black and the red, which again, my red being my favorite color, I do like the way this overall looks. Now, I again, just from the standpoint of, you very, very often you don't find just pure black in the wild, so I'm just going to throw on probably a light gray dry brush or something like that. I like these little symbols here, these little kind of semi-stone looking bits that you put in the center here. I think they kind of add just a little bit of extra detail. You just put a little dot of glue on there, and then you can put one on each side, and then that way, when it's all said and done, it just adds a little bit of visual interest to the piece. But again, this whole process probably takes less than 15-20 minutes. You can see here, I'm just going through and putting it all together. So now we're actually going to be doing the bridge, and this little bit here that I'm actually gluing on now is actually for the underside of the bridge itself, that little plastic piece that is pre-printed and everything. That is actually going to run over top of that, and this is just going to give a little bit of support, because obviously we're going to be having models and things like that going over top, so you don't want it to be super flimsy. And I think this was smart on the company's part, because they didn't have to then do any undercuts or anything like that inside of the the thin plastic card. So this was a very smart way of giving more support to the bridge without actually having to do a bunch of overly complex manufacturing processes, which I think in the long run would just make things kind of a pain on their end, and probably just doing this little strip here probably saving them a bunch of time and money and added durability to your pieces. So we're just going to do the same thing on both sides, and then that you'll be all set. So now what we're going to do is we're actually just going to go through and glue this down. Now, you can bend this because it's just plastic card and it's not going to break. And it's actually one of the things I found out about this is the durability of the overall printing that they did on the top of that is actually really, really nice. They did however they did that process. What if they decided that they were going to I'm not really sure what their manufacturing process is, but I found that particular printed stuff is very, very durable. So we're just going to run a line of run a bead of glue on the top there, so that when we place our bridge down and we kind of form it, what it will allow us to do is kind of press it down into all the nooks and crannies, so that you have a good tight seal, because that's really what you want. You want a tight seal up against the outside wall of the bridge, as well as the under structure, and you want it to kind of look like, more or less, you can see here, I'm just going to sit here and use that as a guideline and press that down as much as possible, and then just hold that in place. And then we're actually going to do the same thing for the other side as soon as this dries. And what this is going to do is this is going to allow us to have a very flat piece, so that you can see here when it's all put together, it basically rests almost completely flat on the floor. So again, not overly complicated. And then these, again, kind of like the accents on the top of the Tori, you will actually just kind of run these black lines across, and you just kind of press those in, so that when it's all said and done, you actually have the same sort of motif kind of going from the black and red on the Tori, as well as the bridge itself. And then you can kind of just hold that down. And again, with some of these smaller pieces, you will want to hold those pretty tight. If you don't feel like doing it with your fingers, you could do clamps or something along those lines. But really, with just a little bit of time and whatever type of glue you're using, it's really not all that big of a deal. So you can just kind of hold that in, and then you're all set. And then you just do the same on the other side. Just flip that back around and then glue it back down. And here is the two pieces, the Tori and the bridge. Once they've all been put together, there's been no additional stuff done to them. So this is literally what they look like once they're out of the box and onto the table. So I hope you guys have enjoyed taking a look at this and what you could do with these. So hope you have enjoyed this Stoneforge gaming video, and I'll see you in the next one.